The ancient complex of Angkor Wat stood silent, its sandstone towers reaching toward a humid sky. A breathtaking monument to a forgotten empire's glory and its profound connection to the divine. Beneath the sprawling bas-reliefs where gods and demons wrestled in eternal stone, lived Sokka, a young acolyte who served as the keeper of the temple's oldest, most guarded secrets. Sokka was slight of build, but possessed an ancestral fire in her eyes, a lineage tied directly to the high shaman caste who first consecrated the grounds centuries ago. The peace of the kingdom was a fragile thing, perpetually threatened by the ambitious warlords of the mainland. Men who coveted the wealth and the spiritual power stored within the temple walls. Now, the threat was no longer distant. Rumors carried on the monsoon winds spoke of warlord Agang, a ruthless leader from a rival maritime empire whose army marched with relentless speed. Agang's goal was not mere conquest of territory, but the capture of Angkor Wat itself, intending to harness its spiritual nexus to legitimize his own rule. Sokka knew the conventional army, depleted by years of border skirmishes, could not hold the complex against Agang's massive siege-ready forces. Her only hope lay in the deepest lore, the legends whispered in the temple's shadowy corners, the tale of the stone golem of Angkor. What? It was said that the golem was not built, but grown a spiritual manifestation of the entire Temple Mountain, capable of rising from the very earth to defend the sacred heartland. The golem slept, interwoven into the colossal masonry, requiring an immense, dangerous infusion of ancestral energy and raw jungle magic to awaken. High Shaman Dharma, ancient and frail, met Sokka in the central sanctuary, his voice a dry rasp, heavy with the weight of prophecy. Sokka, the shadows of the invaders are already on the horizon. The time for the last resort is upon us, Dharma instructed, his hands trembling slightly. You must perform the ritual of the 3 souls before the moon sets tomorrow. Without it, the golem is merely cold rock. The ritual required the gathering of 3 distinct mystical components, each drawn from a different layer of the land's spiritual existence. First, the tears of the forest spirit, the distilled essence of pure jungle magic found deep within the remote, vine-choked ruins of Ta Prohm. Second, the whispers of the ancestors, a collection of ancestral chants recorded on ancient bark scrolls, hidden for generations within the labyrinthine galleries. Third, the heart of the mountain, a crystalline geode said to pulse with the slow, ancient beat of the land, sequestered beneath the temple's deepest foundation. Sokka bowed deeply. This spiritual quest was her sole duty, far more vital than any siege defense, for it held the kingdom's entire fate. She immediately set out for the jungle, leaving the defensive preparations to the weary guards and the increasingly frantic generals. The air immediately changed outside the temple walls. The jungle was a vibrant, breathing entity, humming with untold spirits. Sokka entered Ta Prohm, the temple of the wild, where massive fig roots intertwined with the stone, creating a surreal blend of architecture and nature. Finding the forest spirit required complete spiritual surrender. The spirit would only yield its essence to one who respected its untamed sovereignty. She found the spirit in a secluded courtyard, a shimmering column of light and leaves that dissolved and reformed with every breath of the wind. Sokka spent hours in deep meditation, offering only her pure intent to protect the land, patiently waiting for the spirit to acknowledge her. The spirit finally coalesced, dripping 3 large, iridescent globes of liquid onto a sacred lotus leaf. Sokka held the tears of the forest spirit. These drops burned with cold energy, a potent, condensed form of jungle magic, and Sokka carefully sealed them in a jade vial. Back in Angkor Wat, the sounds of distant battle drums were now audible, a menacing rhythmic thudding that spoke of warlord Agang's imminent arrival. She rushed to the western gallery to retrieve the ancestors' whispers, navigating corridors where the stone relief seemed to watch her with ancestral eyes. The scrolls were kept in a recessed vault, sealed by an interlocking lock that required knowledge of the ancient Khmer star calendar. Sokka painstakingly translated the star symbols, her fingers tracing the millennia-old carvings. Unlocking the vault just as a section of the outer wall received a massive blow from a catapult, she secured the brittle, dry bark scrolls, feeling the gentle, supportive presence of the temple's long-dead builders and warriors surrounding her. The whispers of the ancestors provided the voice for the golem, the animating command that would override the stone's millennia of dormancy. Now, only the heart of the mountain remained, the most difficult and dangerous component, requiring descent into the temple's deepest, most unstable foundation. This was the place where the original builders had spiritually anchored the temple to the literal bedrock of the kingdom. She descended through narrow, suffocating stone shafts, carrying only a flickering oil lamp, the air growing thick with the scent of wet earth and primal energy. She was deep below the water table, where the temple's huge stones were held together by pressure and prayer alone. She finally reached the lowest chamber, a space barely large enough to kneel, dominated by a large, crystalline geode embedded in the floor. The geode pulsed, not with light, but with a deep, subsonic vibration that made her teeth ache, the slow, ancient beat of the land. To take the heart, she had to cut her palm with a sacrificial obsidian blade, allowing her blood to mingle with the geode, offering the golem her personal life force. She completed the offering, and a shard of the geode, the heart of the mountain, separated itself. Warm and throbbing in her hand, Sokka ascended, clutching the three components. Just as the main gates to Angkor Wat's outer enclosure were shattered by a coordinated assault. Warlord Agong's men, clad in dark, heavy armor and wielding long pikes, spilled into the complex, their war cries echoing among the silent, ancient stones. Zhang himself rode a massive war elephant, his face a mask of cold arrogance, confident that spiritual resistance was no match for material steel. Search every corner. Do not let a single priest or scroll escape. This temple is mine. Agong roared, his voice magnified by the clamor of war. Sokka reached the main courtyard at the temple's base, where the 5 towers of Angkor Wat soared above her, their spiritual power converging. She could see the guards making their last desperate stand, their arrows falling short against the invaders' armored ranks. The warlord's main siege engine, a terrible iron-reinforced battering ram, was being wheeled toward the main inner staircase. Sokka spread the ancestors' whispers on the ground in a perfect circle, uncorked the jade vial of jungle magic, and placed the throbbing heart of the mountain in the center. She began to chant the words written on the scrolls, her voice initially soft, but gaining impossible strength as the ancestral spirits joined her. The air grew cold, then fiercely hot, as the jungle magic reacted with the geode, sending shimmering, golden veins of energy tracing across the courtyard stones. The invaders paused, momentarily stunned by the sudden, terrifying display of magic, mistaking it for a desperate curse. "It is a trick of the priests. Burn them all," Warlord Aegon commanded, urging his men forward with a contemptuous wave of his hand, but the stone refused to burn. The golden light solidified, fusing the sand, the moss, and the granite of the entire complex. The very foundation of the main tower, the tallest central structure representing Mount Meru, began to tremble violently. Great fissures, glowing with interior white heat, snaked across the stone blocks, extending downward, outward, and through the courtyards. The sound was not a crack, but a deafening, grinding scream of rock tearing itself from millennia of sleep, the heart of the mountain beating faster. From the base of the central tower, the stones began to rise. Not crumbling, but deliberately shifting, massive carved blocks ascending in an impossible gravity-defying movement. The ground where Sokka stood became the golem's massive heel, its foot spanning a third of the main courtyard. Warlord Agong's face, minutes before set in arrogant certainty, was now slackened in sheer, paralyzing terror as he watched the impossible unfold. The stone golem of Angkor Wat stood over 100 feet tall, a colossal humanoid figure sculpted from the temple's very fabric, its body covered in ancient moving bas-reliefs. Its eyes were the glowing gold of the jungle magic, and its head was the central tallest tower of Angkor Wat, now animated and surveying the battlefield. The golem roared a sound that was the collective sigh of the jungle, the scraping of ancient mountains, and the thunder of ancestral rage, and raised its massive stone fist. Warlord Agong's battering ram was instantly pulverized, shattered into gravel under the golem's colossal, silent strike. The golem moved with terrifying purpose, each step crushing the invader's formation. Not with clumsy destruction, but with deliberate, overwhelming force. Its spiritual mission was to protect the integrity of the land, and it was executing that mandate flawlessly. Aegon, recovering quickly from his shock, ordered his elite magical cores forward, instructing them to target the golem's glowing eyes. The cores unleashed bolts of dark, binding energy, magic designed to shackle and control, but the golem simply absorbed the attack. The golem was more than a physical construct. It was a nexus of the land, and the dark magic dissipated harmlessly into the earth it represented. Sokka, still kneeling amidst the radiating energy, felt the golem's consciousness, a vast, slow, patient mind that had witnessed the entire history of the Chimera people. She realized the terrible cost. She was not commanding the golem, sharing its life force, channeling the entire kingdom's spiritual energy through her own body. She urged the golem toward the fleeing warlord Agong, who was attempting to retreat on his war elephant. The golem extended a hand the size of a small house, effortlessly scooping up the war elephant and its terrified rider. It brought the terrified warlord to its face, its massive eyes burning into Agong's soul. The golem didn't crush him. It used the full spiritual force of the land to break his will, stripping him of his ambition and arrogance. Warlord Agong was dropped onto the stone floor, his armor dented, his spirit broken, now a trembling man, utterly devoid of the capacity to wage war. Seeing their leader defeated not by steel but by spirit, the remaining invaders dropped their weapons and fled in a terrified, chaotic retreat. The siege of Angkor Wat was over, concluded in a definitive moment of spiritual supremacy over political ambition. Sokka, drained of all energy, watched as the golem turned its attention to the physical damage the battle had wrought upon the temple grounds. It did not repair the damage with magic, but with the steady, careful hands of a master craftsman, delicately placing fallen stones back into position. The golem was embodying the moral focus. The power of the land is protective and restorative, not purely destructive. Once the courtyard was cleansed and the last invader had fled, the golem paused, its glowing eyes turning toward Sokka. The entire massive construct began to descend, its structure slowing, dissolving back into the stones of the temple. The ancestral whispers faded, the jungle magic receded, and the heart of the mountain ceased its frantic throbbing. The 5 towers of Angkor Wat settled back into their ancient, immovable positions, indistinguishable from the structure of a day before. Sokka knew she was witnessing the golem's return to its centuries-long sleep, preserving its power for another ultimate crisis. Shaman Dharma approached Sokka, supporting her as she struggled to stand. His eyes filled with gratitude and awe. "You have saved us, child. You risked your spirit to maintain the balance." "This is the true meaning of the mandate of the land," Dharma whispered. Sokka did not feel victorious, but deeply connected to the entire empire, bound by the spirits and jungle magic that now flowed through her veins. Warlord Agong was captured and exiled, forever haunted by the terrifying vision of the colossal guardian. The surviving generals of the kingdom, witnessing the miraculous defense, understood that their true strength lay in spiritual guardianship, not military might alone. The new era of the kingdom would focus on restoring the sacred sites, honoring the spirits, and working in harmony with the powerful jungle magic. Sokka continued her duties as the keeper, but now she carried the collective memory of the golem's awakening, the weight of the ancient stone resting lightly on her conscience. The stone golem of Angkor Wat slept, the stones of the temple serving as a colossal, silent promise to all future threats. If you were captivated by this historical wartime fantasy featuring the mysticism of Nusantara, comment, like, share, and subscribe to Storycraft Studio.